in the history file, of course, but there's general advice, and actually like Burp Suite and a couple of the other website scanners will actually alert whenever you have HTTPS content that is being cached, because it's sort of a bad idea, because they don't want you to be caching down, say, a user's social security number or something inside the cache. But so none of those actually exist right now. So we had to come up with a way to say, for any given site that may or may not exist in the cache right now, how am I going to do this so that I can get my code to run on top of that site when I don't know what that site looks like, and I don't know what its content is because it's not in the browser, and get that to do that generically all the time? Yeah, okay, so here I'm going to switch gears and we'll actually walk through this demo, and then we'll probably walk through a little bit of the code, and then let's see, that'll get close to wrapping us up. All right. Okay, so for this particular demo, all I'm doing is I'm going to basically modify the page that comes down to swap out form posts, and I'm going to swap out the action item to make it go to my controlled spot instead. We played with having on-submit JavaScript actions that will run your JavaScript whenever somebody actually submits a post. So in that case, you can do things like fire off all of their data for whatever they just posted out in a, like say, a 1x1 iframe or something along those lines that's invisible to them, and ferret that data back out to your sort of backend server, and then follow on to the original one so you don't lose the page and the user doesn't notice. Okay, so for this, I had to write just a simple HTTP dumpers. It's just an auxiliary mod that basically just records anything you send to it. It's just a simple way to say record any information you receive, right? Let's see here. Okay. So I'm just going to use just a simple exploit here. This is just a client-side social engineering exploit, just as a way to gain access to my VM here. That's fine. Great. And my keys are not working. That's fantastic. Yeah, Control-C, Control-V, I got nothing. That's awesome. This work? No. The demo gods are not with me. Ah, there you go. Oh, that's awesome. It's like it's holding down a control key or something. Thank you, VirtualBox. Oh, fantastic. You gotta be kidding me.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. Okay, so this is, like I said, just simple Java signed applet, social engineering one. We use this one a lot in invisible iframes. Exploits the ability for signed Java applets to run with the same user authority as the user. So yeah, we use this one on social engineering engagements all the time. So. Okay, so session open. Okay. Use Railgun. So right now it's loading the Railgun DLL, pushing that across the network, and loading that into the remote process. Let's see. We'll do right. Try login. I can't remember if this one has problems or not. And then, oh, I got to back out of this real quick. So background out of the interpreter session. Whoa.
Yeah,
Whoops. I ran it and background it at the same time. So now I'll launch that HTTP grabber that it'll sit there and listen and record anything that comes out. All right. Go back down into the interpreter session. Railgun's already loaded, so run. And pass it the capture URL, which is the where you want it to send data, and then the oh yeah, I've got it right here, and then the one that you want to poison. Okay. Right. So it caches two files for me. It caches a JavaScript entry that I've created, and then it caches my sort of web stager code on the other side. So when I go to this website now, it will actually load my code instead of the code off the website. And it should have happened so fast we didn't see it. And of course it didn't work.
Refresh.
Exactly.
Okay. Do the presenter one.
You want to do what's up?
Do the presenter one.
If I can find that one again.
This is why people don't do live demos.
Right. Okay, so that site's loading. So there's some quirks right now with the type of file that comes back and whether the extension is HTML or HTML. There's a particular hierarchy that IE uses to determine whether or not it's going to use a given cache entry. And so there's a couple of bugs there that we're still working through. It works on some page contents and not others. Like it'll work on google.com every time. A couple of these different Blackhat logins were a little flaky, and sometimes they do it and sometimes they wouldn't. And so this particular one, I'm setting the cache entry to run or to last for 1 month. And the other thing that you'll notice is that you'll get these get last errors of 32. When you see that on the commit URL cache entry piece, that means that basically the browser is open and they're looking at that site. So it tried to write to this file, but it couldn't because that particular entry was locked. So you just run it again, and then it works. Shouldn't have to. And there it is. So now I've replaced the action item here for this demo to make it blatantly obvious. You can also do, like I said, you can do on submits, which will create that. But in this case, so now if I were to fill this thing out and hit create, it fires and it comes back to me. In a real attack, I would have set that up so that it was not obvious to the user and they were directed to the correct place and all that stuff. But on this side now, we got basically all of that stuff. So anything that was typed into any of those fields, I now have. I've got their usernames and passwords for whatever. In the case of, say, OWA, you can start getting access to actual files and things of that nature. Basically anything that they're submitting back up. And then additionally, obviously, so this is just one example, right? You've got access to the entire DOM. So you can do anything from keyloggers within JavaScript, on key press events, do that. Beef is one a tool that implements a lot of this stuff. Beef was broken for me recently on current versions of IE, so I don't know if it's currently being maintained, but as a proof of concept, it's all there. And
so yeah, that's it.
So yeah, so I'll dive into some of the code here, and then we'll have question time. Okay, so what we've got here is just cache entry functions that will reach out to the system, pull down the system time, right? Make modifications to it, add 1 month to it currently, and then spit it back out. We'll create, so create URL cache entry. We're passing it the URL, the given extension, and then the length value of 256. Here's where we actually write the payload. So we'll open a file handle and we'll dump our contents down into that. Come down here and show you that. Here's the commit cache entry function that'll actually commit that entry. Go down to the, here we go. Yeah, so the HTTP stager. This was really the kind of the thing that I found kind of interesting, so I wanted to talk about it for a second. As far as a way to have generic HTML that will load the real site in the background, modify it, and then replace it. So it's very simple. All it is on this is just load my JavaScript file and then call a couple functions, right? I want you to poison the page, and then I want you to swap it out for the real one. Poison page will just reach out and pull down the same site that you're actually looking at, and then just append a question mark on the end. You've got to find a way to modify the request that gets sent, so IE doesn't use its cache again, because it will otherwise. It'll actually just pull the same site, and you'll get stuck, and it'll do that a couple of times and then stop. So what we found was that reliably, you can always just tack a question mark on the end of it, and that will actually render as a different site in IE's view. But as far as the server is concerned, it's the same site, and so they'll send you the same content back. Here, just doing a search for basically, while, as long as you're not getting an error on searching for new form fields, then go through, find the form field, find the action item. I set markers, on each side of wherever the action item is currently going. Swap it out with my payload being my site instead. You can also do the same trick with onSubmit and just use a different JavaScript object to do it. And you're done. The site's loaded. It looks completely, flawless to the end user, and you now have forever running your JavaScript on top of whatever page that they're going to. So.
Yeah, and after you're gone, that's still there. Your scripts still get run every time they go to that page, every time they go to OA, every time they go to their SSL VPN. As long as your cache is there, they still get your poison cache entry. You still get their data, even though you may not even have access to the box anymore. You still get the data.
So anything else?
So just kind of in concluding, while running as a limited user is definitely a strong security practice, we recommend it. I recommend it to all of my customers. As something you want to do. It's not a silver bullet. It doesn't mitigate every Windows vulnerability. It doesn't, stop attackers from accessing your data and things like that. But it is definitely something you want to use, and you want to monitor your networks. As always, remote code execution is pwn. So, anybody have any questions? Yep.
Yeah.
I don't know if I missed it, but we were talking about content that you can create.
So with Railgun, you can basically do, in Railgun, and then the Meterpreter source itself has all these same tricks. Like Meterpreter, the way that it works is it will do reflective DLL injection into a remote process. So through normal Win32 API, you can do things like open up remote process space and inject code into it, and then make it do stuff. So Metasm is another piece that's inside Metasploit, a version of it, and that'll let you do things like compile assembly on the fly. So you can compile that on the fly